the approach of Avodas Hashem, of how we in Breslov how person relates to themselves and others, right? Which is something that we're doing all the time. Like we said last time, that the minute that you walk into the room, you already have a million judgments, right? Or maybe not a million, but at least several tens of, if not hundreds of judgments about a million things that are going on in the room. So that's something that's automatically happening. So how do we bring some consciousness to that? How do we control a little bit our judging of our surroundings? Which, of course, we could say, well, don't judge anything, right? And there's a lot of there's world philosophies that root for that, and maybe in an ideal world, but we need to judge situation. If you're walking to the old city and there's a suspicious group of guys that are approaching you, right, with things in their hands that are look like dangerous, and you don't judge it because you're trying to be non-judgmental, so it's not going to end up good for you. We have to judge our situation because Baruch Hu created us in a way that we have to judge our surroundings in order to determine who we are, where we are, what's going on, right? Am I safe? Am I in danger? Right? Is this calm? Is this etc. etc. So to turn it off is not really part of the question. The question is, how can we make it conscious? What do we do to take the reins, to take control over that aspect of our neshama of judging? So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about how to relate to other people and how to relate to ourselves. And I saw this morning, right after Adam, I saw in Rabbi Natan, Rabbi Nassan Breslover said that he says over and over that this Torah, this piece that we're learning now, is so central to how a Jew can have joy in his life and how he can stay focused on what he has to stay focused on. And he says, Nechkar etzli. He says, I already did like a whole research on myself that this is the most powerful tool that we've got. That's what he said.
For what? For simcha?
For staying b'simcha, for staying focused, not falling into all kinds of confusion and right. Okay, so here we go. We're gonna start. We only got a couple lines in, so we're just gonna go quickly through the first couple lines, and we'll get back to where we were. Da, you should know. Ki tzarich ladun et kol adam l'kav zchut. You must judge every single person the l'kav zchut. You guys remember the kaf was 9, right? Here's the good things that he's got. Here's the not good things, right? Judge him according to this, right? Judge him according to the good that he's got. Even someone who's a complete rasha, right? In your eyes, according to your assessment, this guy has nothing good going for him, right? So what do? You have to search, and you must find. Don't be satisfied just with the search. You also must find some little good. Doesn't have to be like, a massive thing. You have to find something good. If 99% of his life he's a rasha, certifiable rasha, but this 1% or this 0.1% he's not. In that little place he's not a rasha, right? So then, if that's the place we find. Now you did the work. You searched for it. You found it, right? Through finding it, and you judge him according to that place. What does it mean to judge him according to that place? This is, I think, the crux here. I relate to him in this way. I relate to him on this point in him, right? Me and you have a relationship of 20 years. We've hurt each other's feelings. We've said things that we regret, and we love each other. We've done lots of wonderful things for each other, right? How is it possible for us to get over all the pain that we've caused each other and still have a relationship, right? Sometimes, as you guys know, when it comes to a couple and even friendships, sometimes it's just too much. You can't get over it, right? There's just too much pain under it, right? So the truth is, and here's a big secret, you can always get over it. You have to work. I'm not blaming anybody that gives up and throws in the towel. If two people, I'll get to you in just one second. If two people are willing to work and work on their communication and work, right? So the relationship can always survive. And why is that? Well, once I asked, a friend of mine turned to me and he asked, because he was really struggling in his marriage, and he said, Leilu Nishmat, what is this? Common Leib Shmuel ben Yitzchak Yosef. Okay, Be'ez Hashem, these words, the Torah should be for Aliyah, for his neshama. What was I saying? What was the last thing I was saying?
Your friend who asked you about marriage
He asked me.
advice.
He was really struggling in his marriage, and he said, Micha, at what point? This is when I was much younger. He said, at what point do you actually start thinking about divorce? When is it appropriate to think about divorce? So I said, it's a good question. I don't know. I'm calling my rabbi. I'll call you back. So I called my rabbi, and my rabbi said, when one side is not willing to work. As long as both sides are willing to work.
Wow.
So then you have what to save.
Deep.
Right?
Wow.
Right? It's a very big yesod. It's a very important yesod to hear. I will just say, willing to work must mean really willing to work. Right? Not just lip service, So, and if they're not, so there's nothing to work with. There's no relationship, right? And I didn't forget your question, but how is it possible for us to get over all the stuff that we've been through, and it's a relationship? So the Chovos HaLevavos, the duties of the heart, Rabbeinu B'chayev from 1,000 years ago writes that this is one of the most glorious gifts that Hashem gave us, and it's called shichacha, forgetfulness. We're able to forget things. If we would remember every bad thing that happened to us, we wouldn't be able to walk out of this door right now. We'd have a heart attack. If we were stuck there, if we couldn't forget and we would never be able to have a relationship, not with our parents, not with our siblings, not with our spouses, not with our children,
Not with ourselves.
not with ourselves, and certainly not with Hashem as well. How can I forgive? How can I forgive if I can't forget it? If it's always constantly in my mind, right? So what does that mean? That means that let's take your question now, because I'm not.
So I understand just imagine you have this, you meet this bad guy, and when I understand you right, you need to look for the good side of him. But you might, of course, you might find something, but you would, maybe you would say, I'm still a little bit naive, because I'm searching for the good one, but he is bad.
Right.
So I give pain to myself at the end. So how you manage that?
It's a good question. And it's kind of like a screaming question. Like, come on, Rabbi, are you trying to teach us to be like, fools, kind of like not to see who this guy really is, right? So the answer to that, there's a lot. I mean, that's a great question. We could really spend the rest of this year talking just about that. I want to, if I'm in this world, and I want to get to as quickly as possible, to get to my own essence, to bring this world to its essence, right? We're crazy about Mashiach, right? We're crazy about the redemption. Like that's what interests us. That's what we want, and I want to get the fastest path that I can do that, right? If I'm going to medical school and I want to be a doctor, why? Because I want to help people. Right? So, and I give you, look, you can either study for 10 years and then have a 5-year stage, whatever, a residency, or you could do 4 years and you'll learn the same thing. You just have to pack it in. So, of course, I want to do the 4 years because I want to as quickly as possible to be able to help people. This guy that's doing 99% bad in his life and 1% good, he's out of touch with himself. He's a broken person, right? He's living from a place 99% of the time from his Yetzer Hara, right? What do I want for him? Forget if I separate myself from my emotional pain or whatever that he might have caused me in my life. What do I want for him? I want the good for him. I want that his neshama should be able to. I want him to be good. I want him to do tshuva. I want him to be able to be better. I want him to be able to express the good that he has inherently in him, right? The only people that we have passed down in our Torah that are inherently evil, you guys know who they are?
That's right, but on the other side,
Amalek.
I need to protect myself also as well.
I have to protect myself, and it doesn't mean like go be a business partner with him or get married with her or whatever it is if she's in that way. We're just talking about how to relate to them. Mm-hmm. How should I view them? What should my relationship be with them? Mm-hmm. Right? So you also have to be careful. The Gemara says, "Kabdeyu v'chashdeyu." Honor a person, be respectful, but also be suspicious. Meaning, if there's a place to be suspicious, don't be a fool. A person that already borrowed $10,000 from you, and he says, "I just need to borrow another $10,000," and he hasn't been paying you back. Well,
Can I ask you one more question? I think it's so personal. because we need to look back to our own history, where we are coming from, our parents, what did they experience in life. So I'm a son of a Shoah survivor. And my mother, she always told me, don't trust other people. It could be dangerous. This is something you have in your mind. So
Right.
it's not easy to
For
change
sure.
that.
For sure. Absolutely. And each one of us needs to understand ourselves deeply, to understand where we're coming from, where our blind spots are, where our neuroses are. Each one of us has, a little bit of mishugas inside of us, and we have to work it out. We have to realize, one of the ways to do that, by the way, is really to get yourself a rabbi that you view him as a very healthy, balanced, beautiful, understanding person, right? And you ask him everything. What about this? Am I thinking correctly about this? Should I think differently about this? Right? Right? It's called shimush chachamim. To serve a Talmid Chacham really means to learn everything from him. Like they say about the Baal Tanya, when he was a young man, he was deciding whether where to go to learn. He could go to Mezrich, where the Maggid of Mezrich was, and where the Chassidim were, or he could go to Vilna, where that was before the Vilna Gaon was really big. But there was that was the center of Lithuanian learning. So he said that he went to Mezrich. Why? Because he said Torah he could get in Vilna. He could also get Torah in Mezrich. But in Mezrich, he said he'd learn how to tie his shoes like a Yid. Right? In other words, even down to the tiniest details, like how to be a Yid. Right? So
The most mundane things, right?
right, to find the holiness in what the seemingly mundane. Right? All right, you guys know that the way a Yid ties a shoe, we have a way that we tie our shoe. There's everything. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable how from the minute that you wake up in the morning until the second that you go to sleep at night, every one of our actions can be, should be, halavai. If only we, when we learn the halachas, we learn the Sfarim, can be imbued with holiness, imbued with meaning, gefilt, right? So back to what we were saying. How is it possible if me and you have a 10-year relationship, we've heard each other a lot and we loved each other a lot, that I can still love you and not focus on the bad, right? It's because I'm able to forget, but it's also a conscious, maybe it happens a little bit more easily in a friendship, right? But there's a conscious effort to focus on the good. When me and my wife get in an argument, and then afterwards, we made up, right? But you guys know, sometimes when you make up, and then you cleared the air, you apologize, but the good feeling didn't come back yet. You have to make an effort, right? You bring flowers, whatever it is, but each person in their own way, right? You make the effort to bring the goodness back. There's a focused energy to focus on the good, and I'm gonna focus on the good, only on the good. The bad, it never happened. It's finished. Forget about it, right? So that's what the Rebbe is saying here. Listen. Let's listen closely to what he's saying. In this person that even the Rasha, and you found this one point of good, and that's the place you judge him from that place. Oh, Yankee, he's a Gevaldig Yid. He's a sweet, sweet person. Right? What are you talking? He's a sweet person. 99%, 99 days out of 100, he's a bitter, terrible person. He does all these things. Yeah, but this one place, that's the place I'm going to relate to him from. Right? It goes against our nature. The Rebbe's telling you to do something not so easy. It goes against your nature. It's rewiring. It's remachine yourself into a different way of relating to people. Now listen, you have a lot to gain from this. It's not just right. First of all, you guys realize that there's a few teachings about this. I'm just trying to find the most appropriate one. But wherever your mind is, wherever your thoughts are, so that's what you're drawing. You're connected on high to that place. So if you're connected on high to a place of anger, if you're angry all the time, so you're bringing down anger, right? If you're connected to sweetness and to goodness and happiness, so you're bringing that down. If you're doing chesed, you draw down chesed into the world. Baal Shem Tov says, "B'mkom shemachshavto shel adam," in a place where a person's thoughts are, sham hu kuloi. That's where you are, right? To the extent that is passed down, you could be in all the way in a very far place, I don't know, wherever Timbuktu, I don't know, wherever you want to go, but you're focused, your thoughts, you're thinking about the Beit HaMikdash, you're thinking about the Kotel. right? Like it says in the Shulchan Aruch that when you daven, you should imagine yourself in the base of Mikdash, right? That's where you are.
Yes.
Where am I? Am I where my body is or where my thoughts are? So the Basra says your thoughts are more essentially you.
Yes.
And I'll just say the second half of that, I could be standing at the Kotel and I'm thinking about Timbuktu and I'm not really at the Kotel.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So if I'm thinking, I'll get to you 1 second. If I'm here, I am. I've got Yankel Ploini in front of me, and he's right. I see the bad, and I see a little bit of good. So what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to relate to him? How am I supposed to judge him? How am I supposed to write him in my own inner book? Yankel Ploni, good or Yankel Ploni bad? So what I'm supposed to do, Yankel Ploni good, right? And then one of the things that I have to gain from that is that now I'm in a world of zchut. I'm in a world of seeing the good in a person, right? It draws down Hashem seeing the good in me. It draws down a million good things. But he's going to say one more thing that we said last week. Yeah.
So to an extent related to what you said about envisioning yourself in the Beit HaMikdash, when they actually pray, historically, they face towards the Beit HaMikdash, even if they're on the south side facing north. We face towards the temple at all times.
Correct.
Interesting. So they were on top of the mount, the actual plateau, and they were facing towards.
Correct. Yeah, and then anywhere that's what it says. Anywhere in the world, you're supposed to face Jerusalem. And anywhere in Jerusalem, face the Beit HaMikdash, and in the Beit HaMikdash, facing the Holy of Holies.
That's where Kadosh Parashim is where we're supposed to be directed towards.
Right.
So if I'm at Kotel HaMa'arav, the plaza, I'm supposed to go like a little bit to the left instead of forward.
So a lot of people do that. I've never actually seen any of the poskim write that you have to do it, but it's more exacting to do that.
It's mutar?
Yeah. It's not mutar. It's adif. It's preferable to do it like that. It's already, we're not particular on how many degrees to the left or the right, but it's more. Now here, listen to what happens. Something cosmic happens to this person when you relate to him. Again, think about how dark this is. How do you say dark? Fine. How subtle. Fine, precise, subtle. Everything. Yankel Ploni, good, bad. I see the good. I make a conscious decision to relate to him from this place of good. That doesn't mean that I'm 100% successful. It doesn't mean that I don't see all the bad also. It means that this is the place where I'm choosing to relate to him from. Something cosmic happens to his neshama at that moment. You actually elevate him to the kaf of zchut at that moment. You bring out his good before Hashem. Right? And it goes so far that you can actually bring him to do tshuva. This is what we said last week. Right?
Don't even tell him anything.
Without telling him, he's in Taiwan and you're in Uzbekistan. You don't even know him. You judge him the kav zchut, right? You could bring him to do tshuva. All of a sudden he wakes up and he says, "You know what? Where's God? I'm looking for God." Or the Chabad shliach next to him, he's been trying to get him to come for Shabbos all these years and he never would come, and then finally he says, "You know what? Maybe I'll go." Like that moment it cracks. It brings the tshuva. Unbelievable. Okay, that's where we got to last week. Now we're going to go forward. The Rabbi said most of the Torah in that first paragraph, but we'll keep going. He says, this is what the pasuk says in Tehillim: "Ve'od me'at ve'en rasha, v'itbonanta mekomo ve'enenu." The pasuk in Tehillim, chapter 37, pasuk Yud, says, a little bit more, ve'en rasha, and there's no rasha. V'itbonanta al mokomo, and if you contemplate his place, ve'enenu, and he's not there. Very interesting pasuk, right? A little bit more, and there's no rasha, and if you contemplate on his place, then he's not there. Hainu, what does it mean? Shapasuk mazhir ladun et hakol lekav zchut. The pasuk is telling us, focus on the good on people, judge them favorably, judge their zchut there, see the good in them. Even though you see all the bad in him. Right? We're not talking about, maybe this, another answer to your question. We're not being naive. You see what he's done. You see the bad that he's done or that he's doing. Nevertheless, you have to seek, and you have to search, and you have to find a little bit of good. And that in that place he's not a rasha. And this is what the pasuk is saying. Ve'od me'at, another little piece. You find a little bit of peace. Ve'en rasha, and in that place he's not a rasha. שצריך אתה לבקש בו עוד מעט טוב שיש בו עדיין. You find just a little bit of good in him that he still has in him. ששם אינו רשע. And then that place he's not a rasha. And now that Rabbi says, and now you're going to say, what if the person is kulo? Entirely bad. I don't see any good in him. Ki afa pi shu rasha. Rabbi says, even though he's a rasha, it's true. I agree with you. He's a rasha. He's doing a lot of bad things. Ech efshar she'ein bo me'at tov adayin. How's it possible that he doesn't have any good in him? It's impossible. Ki ech efshar shelo asa ize mitzvah o davar tov me'amav. It's impossible that he never did one mitzvah in his life. He never did one good deed in his life, right? Impossible. Everybody. So you say, oh, wow, for the last 77 years, he hasn't done anything good.
Even
Yeah, but
Esav, right?
huh?
Even Esav, like he had something good in him.
Esav had a lot of good. Esav had a tremendous potential. They say, the farm said that Esav had more potential than Yaakov.
So you say we need to remember that Hashem created only good people.
Right. Except for, there's the only people, Hashem, which is an amazing thing, because the Jewish people, like, we're not into killing people. We're not into, like, violence. We're not into that. And that's just not us. But Hashem says, like, when you get to Amalek, everyone, even their chickens, the Shiva Amamim, the 7 Canaanite nations, right? And everybody says, like, well, golly, what kind of vengeful God is this? What is this violence? A lot of people who are like, really like, kind of like peaceful people, when they come to the Torah, and then all of a sudden they get to the sugi of Amalek and like, oh my goodness, this is barbaric, this is crazy, right? So and it's right now we're coming up to Purim. That's the time to talk about Amalek. These are the few examples that Hashem said there is no good in these people. There's nothing redeemable. Meaning that the redemption for them is their destruction.
But that's the whole thing. There is a concept of people who actually have no good.
Right, but it's specifically just them.
Right, but we don't know who Amalek is and who's not.
So that's a good.
Now this is where it becomes difficult, because you can obviously every person wants to go around judging everybody favorably, but in the back of your head, I know that there's still Amalek out there.
Right.
Obviously I'm not going to point fingers, and I have my opinion who's Amalek. Someone might have their own. So it's gonna.
Right.
This is where, like.
Yeah, sure. So let me address this.
Obviously, I can't. I guess I understand that I'm not the judge, because we don't know who Amalek is. We should be judging everyone favorably, but it still comes out, in my opinion, that there might be people that that just don't have any good in them.
Right. So let's clean it up a little bit. Let's clarify a little bit. You want to add to that question, or?
I'm trying to remember what it was last.
Okay, so I'm going to address the question in the meantime. Again, the mitzvah of judging favorably is officially only for Jewish people, only for our fellow Jews, right? So this exercise, we're mainly focused on our own people here, right? However, I extended it by saying that even among the non-Jewish nations of the world, it's also true that there is good, right? And that even if you see there's that except for Amalek and the 7 Canaanite nations. Now, the sugya of Amalek today is a major sugya, a very super interesting sugya. I think people are quick to pull the trigger, like this guy must be Amalek, right? So everybody, when it comes to Hitler, Yamach Shemo v'Zichron, Shem Hashem Yekam, everybody, all the Gedolei Yisrael agreed that was absolute Amalek, absolute, no shadow of a doubt,
Hitler.
right? Yeah. Yamach Shemo. And so there are a few examples. We have just because this is super interesting. You guys are gonna perk up in your chairs and you hear this very interesting. The question in the poskim, in our halachic poskim, that they talk about, what if you find someone today who you know is Amalek? In other words, we have simanim. There's certain signs of Amalek, right? And if you find and you know absolutely they're Amalek, do you have an obligation to kill them? Right? Right? So it's a question. So some poskim say yeah. Actually, they say yes, if you can get away with it and not spend the rest of your life in jail, right? But most of the poskim say no. They say the mitzvah of wiping out Amalek It's a national mitzvah. It's not an individual mitzvah. So whereas I might be an individual soldier in the army of Melech HaMashiach when the time comes, but right now as an individual, I don't have that mitzvah. And where do they learn that? When we came into Eretz Yisrael, they didn't go out, searching for Amalek to wipe them out. They waited until there was Shaul HaMelech, right? Yavo Amalek. They came. That was before we got the mitzvah to wipe out Amalek. Right? But afterwards, you would say that's the first thing we need to do. Eretz Yisrael, right? We got an army. But until they got the tzivui from Hashem, they got the command from Hashem to Shaul HaMelech, only then did they go out and make war with Amalek. Right? And that was the first and last time, really. I mean, there's also a story about David the Melech, but that was the first, right? That was the main thing with Amalek. Right? So there we have certain stories. Not sure if whatever, but certain stories of tzaddikim that actually found. There's a story of a Chasim Sofer even. It's brought in reliable sources that he found a person that he was sure that he was Amalek and he actually killed him. Right? There's a story of the Netziv Volozhin, right? The Rav, not the Netziv. I think Rav Chaim Volozhin. I can't remember. I'll look it up. I always like to look this up before Purim. No, it's Taka the Netziv. It was the Netziv Volozhin was when he was a young man, a young rabbi. He was walking around in the city of Petersburg, and we don't say the saint part, but and a little boy came up and slapped him across the face and cursed him, and he was shocked, and so he followed him. And he said because he saw in this boy all the tchunot, all the qualities of Amalek. And he didn't know who he was, and he was following him around, to try to clarify who he was. And he found out that he was actually the son of the Tsar, of the king, of the Russian king. And there was a Masur that they were also I don't know exactly which family, I don't know whatever, but so that's a story. That's Rav Kook's Rebbe, the Netziv. So there's interesting stories, but Lamaisa, the Rova Poskim say that we don't have a mitzvah today to do that, especially since, and this is the main thing, that it's not irrelevant because we don't know how to identify them today. Certain Chachamim knew how to identify, but it's not like we have a clear Masorah to be able to say. Otherwise, it could be a very dangerous thing. But in any event, back to what our subject, our main subject. Yeah.
So we established that in Esav there is good, and you even went so far as to say that he had more potential than Yaakov Avinu. How come is it that Yaakov Avinu got the birthright and not Esav? I started paying attention to the parashiot like a little bit later. I started taking it seriously later. So that's right.
So it's a good question. It's a bigger question than I want to answer in full right now. But so not everybody agrees with that. The Esav had more potential than Yaakov, but it is brought in this far, and that's why Yitzchak. It says Yitzchak loved Esav. Why was he so intent? Yitzchak couldn't see.
Firstborn, right?
The Esav was he was the firstborn, but even the firstborn you can see when they're doing Rivka could see and Yitzchak couldn't see. Rivka was Yitzchak was Yitzchak Avin. Of course he saw. It says so. The Sfarim say that he saw how much potential it was. That if you could get him to do tshuva, if you could take that power, it's nuclear power. If you can bring that into the side of kedusha, so then you have holy nuclear power. But if he just throws him out, if he just right, so then he stands no chance. Right, but it turned out that that the mothers are always right, and we must always listen to the mothers, and right, kamuvan, and so he didn't do it. So why did Yaakov get it? The most simplistic way to answer is because Yaakov did what he was supposed to do, and Esav didn't. Right, Yaakov also had a Yetzer Hara, just like all of us. Right, it says the bigger the tzaddik, the bigger the Yetzer Hara. But he, it was the Ramchal has a whole long Torah about how the concept of how Yaakov became Yisrael, and there's a whole long thing that I don't want to go into all right now, but maybe another time we can go into it. Maybe after the class we can talk more about it. So again, here I am. Let's keep it focused maybe just for now, on my fellow Jew. And I'm looking, and I see that he's got all this bad. I'm not naive to the fact that he's got all this bad, but I find this good in him, in that little place of good, and that little place is pure, right? Because it's impossible that he never did one good thing in his life, right? Which is pretty amazing, meaning, like I've said before, maybe 70 years ago he did something good. For the last 70 years he's just been causing trouble, right? I can find that. It doesn't have to be right now. There's good in him, right? One time he did something good. One time, right? He said a pasuk once in his life, right? He said a pasuk, right? ועל ידי זה שאתה מוצא בו עוד מעט, and this act that you do of finding the little good, it's a conscious act. It's unbelievable. You find this act, this little good in him, shesham eno rasha, and in that place he's not a rasha. ואתה דן אותו לכף זכות, and you relate to him, you judge him from that place. על ידי זה אתה מעלה אותו באמת מכף חובה לכף זכות. If this person is in the doghouse with Hashem, so to speak, right, because of all the bad that he's done, you actually bring him out of the doghouse, right? You draw him out of there. To the extent that you can mamish make him into a Baal Tshuva. Right? I'm tempted to tell you guys an amazing story I just read about the Ben Ish Chai, but I'm going to save it because I want to I want to get it. But there's a concept today. We said, someone who works in Kiruv. I was makar of him. I brought him closer to God. Right? So it sounds a little bit missionary, and also, who are you? Kadosh Baruch Hu sent you as a shliach, right? But here, Rabbi said, like, you affect people. Don't take all the credit. Hashem made the whole system over here, right? And you're just participating. You're a participant in Baruch Hashem. You get to be on the good side. But you want to draw people close to Hashem. This is a way, gentlemen. This is a way, right? If Am Yisrael does tshuva, all of Am Yisrael does tshuva, that's it. Into the game, right? I don't know with Putin and I don't know what's going to happen there, but it's all everything's gonna go. Okay, let's go weiter. V'zeu ve'od me'at ve'en rasha. This is like like we said in the pasuk, a little bit more, and he's not a rasha. Al yedei shemotzeh be'arasha od me'at tov. That you find in the rasha a little bit more good. It's a little repetitive here. Shesham no rasha. In that place he's not a rasha. Al yedei zeh. And therefore, and then the second part of the pasuk, you guys remember, and then you contemplate his place. Vitbonanta al mukomo ve'enenu, and he's not there. Now you contemplate his place. Now he's not in the same place he was when you found him. Why is that? You find in him a little good point, and you judge him according to that. You see how many times he repeats it over and over. It's unbelievable in this Torah. Right? Here's Yanko Ploni. This is his, let's just kind of simplify. This is all the different levels, right? He's on like the lowest level, right? And I found that one piece of good that he did. He said a couple of psukim when he was in Gan. Right? From then he went just in a really bad way, right? So here he is. I find that little good. Yanko Ploni said psukis, givaldik yid, right? He just got elevated, right? And now, if I contemplate the place where he was, I'm going to find Yanko Ploni. He's not there anymore because he's up here. I elevated him. You actually moved him.
Wow.
You changed his status. You moved his place.
Rabbi, I've got a quick question here. So, in terms of judging someone else favorably, or that by which affecting someone else in a favorable way, that could be anything. In a certain sense, you have to be in a healthy arena yourself. If you cannot judge yourself favorably, and you cannot be living with yourself in your own skin, and you're not, it'll be very difficult. So, where do we have to start from? Do we have to start with ourselves, or by judging ourselves favorably, or doing that, and it'll bounce back to us?
Right. First of all, you prophesize, because that's the exact thing that Rabbi is going to talk about now. But so for sure, and everybody knows, I'm sure everybody was thinking on some level or another, there's got to be some type of two-way thing, judging myself favorably and judging others favorably, and they affect each other.
Found a tool that helps. As Jewish people, our favorite thing to do is ask questions after whining. So when you become like conscious of your own outlook of people. So if you see someone doing something that you think they shouldn't do, or hear about them in an unfavorable way, the best tool is to take that question and straight away ask yourself why. Right?
Why are they doing it? That's what you're saying?
Why are they doing this?
Right.
Why do they do that?
There's a reason behind it.
And like how people love to play devil's advocate? I think it stems from this, no? If defend them rather than to just take a look.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, there's always depth to even the Uncle Plunny that's been doing bad for so many years. There's a reason why.
Maybe it's coming from a place of inner trauma or emotional
right.
stress that's been.
Right.
Maybe it's even something that's been passed down to him.
Right. Matter of fact, I'll tell you guys. I'll just give you a little bit of a window into my life. Not really into my own personal life, which I'm happy to tell you everything, but that's not what I'm talking about. That Machon Meir, I was here teaching before Corona. I told you guys like 14 years. Most of the time, I wasn't actually giving class. I give a class once a day or something like that. But I was sitting in the baby dress, just meeting with guys, doing personal work, right? And as you know, I'm also a therapist. And so I've met with, over the years, hundreds of people that they open up their inner world to me, right? Right away, they open up things that, I can't tell you how many people have told me things that they never told anybody else in their life, right? And I could tell you that everybody has a pekel. Everybody's got a chavila, how do you say that in English? You guys know what I'm talking about.
Pekel,
Everybody's got a story. Everybody's got pain.
Baggage, right?
Everybody's got baggage. Everybody's got stuff. Everybody's hurting in a certain way. In our generation, there's so much trauma, even the slightest things, which we would say, well, that's not traumatic, but for a lot of people, it is very traumatic. Mm-hmm. And people are carrying around a lot in this generation. And so I've had the privilege to be brought into people's inner world, but it's also given me a lot of strength, and I always like to share this point to give you guys chizuk, that whatever you see, you should know there's something behind the story. There's always something behind the story, right? And if we were in that person's place, right, no guarantees that we would do any better, right? And so it's a very good, beautiful point. So the question is, the Rebbe is about to talk now about judging ourselves favorably. What comes first, right? So the Rebbe is going to say, but I'll just say, let's read the Rebbe and then maybe if we still have the question afterwards, we'll ask you. And so too a person must find in himself. And this is really the yesod of this Torah. This is the foundation of this Torah. And this is why, like I said at the beginning, Reb Nosson said at the beginning, this morning I learned Reb Nosson that this is really the most tried and tested tool to help us. To find a little bit of good in ourselves.
Who's saying this now?
This is Rabbi Nachman now. What I just said was Reb Nosson. Reb Nosson. Rabbi Natan was the Talmud was the main student and the continuation of Rabbi Nachman. Okay, I'm sorry. In Israel, the Rabbi Nachman is like, everybody knows Rabbi Nachman, so I forgot that. Yeah. Anyway, so Rabbi Nachman, and then he had students of Reb Nosson was his major student who really, he wrote everything. He wrote Likutei Moharan, he wrote all the Torahs that we have. If not for him, we wouldn't have anything for Rabbi Nachman.
Did Rabbi Nachman even say that? Did he even say that?
Yeah,
he said there wouldn't be any or any.
Right. Rabbi Nachman actually wrote 2 books. One of them he burned. There's a whole story there because he was from Shemaim. He understood that if he would reveal that, then he was revealing things that were not ready to be revealed, and it was going to cost him his life. And so we have very little from, actually nothing really for the Rabbi Nachman, actually, except for Sefer Midas that he wrote. But so too a person must find in himself. Because it's known it's already well known that a person has to be very careful to be besimcha all the time. We always have to be besimcha. Yid has to be besimcha, right? There was a great tzaddik that lives in Yerushalayim named Rabbi Osher Freund. He said that inside of each one of our hearts there's a kinor, there's a harp that's playing the niggin of each one of us. Each one of us has our own niggin. And he says, but most of us don't hear it. And he says the reason why we don't hear it is because it's covered up with a lot of sadness, and we need to get past. We have to move the sadness. We have to get past the sadness. In Breslov, this is like the major avoda to be b'simcha, no matter what. They're going to think you're crazy. Reb Nosson, they actually thought Reb Nosson was crazy. People thought that Reb Nosson was crazy. He was a gaon. He was a genius in Torah. His face was always red because he was on fire. He was always running. They said that in the mikveh in the morning, people would be, you get undressed, you go into the mikveh, and then you have to get dressed again. They would be in the mikveh, and then they would hear Reb Nosson would come in, And before they had a chance to even get out of the mikveh, he was in the mikveh, out of the mikveh, dressed and out of there. He was running.
So went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, out.
He was fast. I don't know exactly what it was, but it was like a bullet. And he always was smiling. Even though Reb Nosson struggled very much with all of us, with the Yetzer, tries to make us sad, right? To find to be right. There's no. We spoke about how depression is one of the biggest epidemics in our time, right? So in Breslov, you do whatever you have to do to be besimcha, right? Because what's the problem with atzvus, with sadness? With sadness, we think that sadness is justifiable, right? Sadness always comes with, well, there's a reason why I'm sad, and it's a real, a pretty darn good reason. And this is why I should be sad, because this and this happened, or because I'm like this and like this, or that my life is like this, or my parents were like this, and there's no reason to be sad. Matter of fact, it says that all of the I don't want to go too deep here, but all of the different midas, all the different emotions that we have a shorsh, they have a source in the higher levels. And so if I'm feeling an emotion down here, I really need to connect it to the higher emotion, to the higher spheres, to elevate it. All of them have a shorsh except for atzvus, except for sadness, depression, right? So the Rebbe says it's imperative for us to be besimcha. It's kind of like oxygen. If you don't have oxygen, so the rest of the story is not really relevant, right? It's like this basic necessity for survival. So simcha, for a Jewish neshama, is basic necessity for our daily and our momentary survival, right? So you have to be besimcha. And to push away sadness very much. As is explained several times by us, says Rabbi Nachman. Now, if you start to take a self-assessment, you look at yourself and you say, golly, I don't see, you guys tell me, you don't have to raise your hands. But I can tell you for myself, there's some days that I see so much good in myself, and then there's some days where I just can't see any good, right?
Or you see too much bad.
I see, I'm just blinded to see good. Okay, that's good, but,
Right, there's always a but.
There's always the but, right? And then sometimes you can get into a place where I don't see, I don't have anything worthy, anything good about me. Right? Okay, I did good, but somebody that had my this and that would do a million times better, and I'm really, right? Sometimes it happens. She says sometimes you look at yourself, you don't see any good. In this sense, I'm full of sins, or I'm full of, just bad. And the Baal Davar is a nickname for the Yetzer Hara. And the Yetzer Hara wants, why does he do this? He puts a cloud over you, right? Rabbi Nachman says in a different place, it's it's like clouds covering up our eye. You can't see the sun. You can't see the beautiful, right, clarity of the day. Why does he want to do that? To put us into sadness. He wants to put it into sadness. He wants to knock us down through sadness and through depression. You guys know Mara Shchora is a word for, it means the black bile, right? And it's a word for depression that the Chazal used, and the Zohar talks about it. It's like depression is very, very close to the dark side, right? It's not coming from, if the person is, right, if it's one thing to be stuck in depression, we have to try to get ourselves out, right? There's tools how to get out of that. But a person should never think that it's justifiable, so to speak, right. That it's correct or that it's accurate, is what I'm trying to say. It's always inaccurate, right? It's always covering up the truth. But why does he do that? He wants to push you down there, to knock you down into that, because then you're out for the count. Even though he's working hard, and our generation is working overtime to get us sad and depressed, it's asur, it's prohibited for us to fall into that. We're not allowed to let ourselves fall into that, right? It's as if a person would say, here, they grab you, it's like if the Yetzer Hara takes your hand and makes you reach into somebody's pocket and steal his wallet, right? You're going to fight him. I'm not allowed to do that. That's clear as day that I'm not allowed to do that. I'm not going to let you push me into that. But when he says, oh, but you're really like this and you're really like that, we think it's our own mind talking. We think it's our own, right? And so, is that the rabbi? Was that the rabbi? Okay. We'll finish now. So we're not allowed to fall. We're not allowed to succumb to that. We have to fight. You got to put up a fight, gentlemen. You got to fight for your simcha, right? And that's why in Adar we do a lot of dancing. Right? And yesterday in the kollel that I learned in the mornings, somebody brought a big books, a big speaker there, a big speaker, and do a little 2-minute dance every day after mincha. Yesterday we did 30-minute dances. Guys had to take a shower afterwards. Right?
Wow.
You know, it's like Adar is coming. You know, we got a lot of work to do. You got to bring the simcha on.
Ready for the double.
Right. Ki afa piken asula lipom. You're not allowed to fall down. You have to fight. So, but how are you supposed to fight? I don't have to tell you, gentlemen. When you're feeling depressed and you're feeling bad about yourself, that's the time you feel like you don't have any energy. You don't have any fight in you. All I can see is the bad. I can't see the good. So, what's the way out? What's the way out? With somebody else, I can say, ask the why. I can try to do that to myself, but it doesn't always work. Right? Well, I know it's because of this and because of that. That's why. No. He says, the Rebbe says, you have to find one little piece of good inside you. Right? One little tiny piece of good. We'll conclude there, even though we're in the middle of the paragraph, because I don't want to ma'akev the rabbi for the next class. But that's I'll just give it just a tiny little overview. Find that one piece of good. What are you talking about? I got a million bad things. That's right. This is a conscious, focused, meditative type of new way of relating to yourself. I'm gonna make myself like naive. I'm gonna make myself like all that doesn't exist because I'm relating to myself in this place. In this one place of good, I'm absolutely good in this place. I did good, right? And then the blood of simcha starts to flow back into your neshama, right? And then we'll continue there next week, Be'ez Hashem.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Shabbat shalom.